Once upon a tall tale. The Demon's Finger. Season 0, Episode 9. By Morgan Olson.
Now, I'm going to give you the moral before I give you the story, which ain't the usual order of things. But this particular story don't leave a man much room at the end for morals. So here it is, free of charge. If you ever get into an elevator and there's something laying there on the floor, don't pick up the demon's finger. I know. You're saying, well, how am I supposed to know it's a demon's finger? And that, friends, is exactly the problem. You won't. Daniel didn't. And by the time he did know, he was 50 floors closer to hell than any sensible man ought to be. Part 1. The Man of the Second Birth. The year is 1915, and Daniel has just left his job with the lawman of the Cincinnati Stagecoach Company. Been at the Cleveland branch near a decade. Wasn't anything personal. Just that everybody was driving these electric stagecoaches now. Automobiles, if you want to use their government name. And an electric stagecoach don't need a shotgun man. It needs a mechanic. Daniel could shoot the buttons off a vest at 40 paces, but he couldn't tell you what a battery wanted from him. Nobody asked Daniel about any of it. He didn't have no choice about the matter. You'll want to remember that phrase. It comes back. Now, you might not have heard about people like Daniel. He is a man of the second birth. Originally, the churches called it the second birth and the second death, but folks dropped the back half of that name pretty quick. People rightly enjoy skipping the explanation of the death part. Here's the death part anyway. Daniel had been one of the lawmen killed at the OK Corral. Yes, that one. Now, the books will tell you no lawman died at the OK Corral. The books were paid to say it. October of 1881. 30 seconds of gunfire, those same books have been stretching longer ever since, and Daniel caught 2 of those seconds square in the chest. He woke up just after his own funeral. Not at all what he was expecting. And he missed the whole thing. This was back when folks were just learning about second birth people, when nobody knew what to do with a man who came walking up the road 3 days after they'd sung him into the ground. Some places shot them again, just to be sure. Some places built churches around them. Most places just asked them, real quiet, to move along. Daniel moved along. Didn't choose to die. Didn't choose to come back. Didn't get consulted either time. He'd known nothing but lawman work in his first life, so that's what he did with the second one. Now, the second birth came with a gift. And nobody chose that either. They could smell death. Literally, smell it. Their own, or anybody's. Coming down the road the way you or I might smell rain. Daniel found out about his on a train out of Abilene. Must have been 88 or 89. He was dozing against the window when a smell came over him that he'd know the rest of his days. Rain on cold iron, and fresh turned earth, and under it something sweetish going wrong, like flowers left too long in the water. Grave smell. He was up and moving before his eyes were rightly open. Got off at a water stop, couldn't have told you why, and stood on that platform and watched the train pull away toward a bridge that wasn't going to hold. That was the whole trick of Daniel's second life, once he understood it. He never fought death. He just declined the invitation. 30-some years, never once in a scrap that truly scared him, because his nose always got him out the door before the scrap arrived. You'd be forgiven for thinking that made him the safest man in America. You'd be forgiven, but you'd be wrong. Part 2. 50 Floors Closer to Heaven. With the stagecoach work dried up, Daniel got a letter. A company in New York City. Second birth folks, run by them. Staffed by them, top to bottom. Had heard of him. Good resume, they said. Come take a meeting, they said. 50th floor, they said. Daniel had never been that high in either life, but he'd heard buildings in New York get that high now. They'd just finished one that scraped 57 floors, tallest thing human hands ever stacked. So he put on his good coat and rode east. The building was the kind of place that makes a man hold his hat for no reason. Marble like a courthouse, brass like a casket, and an express elevator with an operator in a red uniform and white gloves. A narrow fellow who chewed cloves, you could smell them off him 3 steps away, and whose whole job was riding that box up and down like a ferryman who'd lost his river. Except when Daniel walked up, the operator was stepping out. "Smoke break," the man said. Said it the way a fellow says a thing he's said at the same hour every day for years. Worn smooth as a saddle horn, regular as a toll. He held the gate, told Daniel the lever wasn't complicated, and was gone. A man alone in a small brass room with a lever he's never touched is going to touch the lever. Daniel got her moving, and she moved rough under his unfamiliar hand, bucking a little between floors. And somewhere around the 30th floor, the jostling shook something loose from wherever it had been resting. It rolled across the elevator floor and bumped his boot. A little thing, wrapped up neat in white paper, twisted at the end. Now be fair to Daniel, because the story isn't, and somebody ought to be. You show a man born in the 1850s, a small item wrapped in white paper. There is exactly one thing in his entire catalog of earthly experience that comes wrapped that way, and it's a cigar. That's the whole list. So Daniel picked it up and put it in his breast pocket. Figured a man careless enough to drop a cigar could spare it. Nobody made him do it. Mark that down. Everything else in this story happened to Daniel. This one thing, this one little thing, he chose. And his nose told him nothing. Which, you'll see, was fair. His nose was in perfect working order. There just wasn't a death in that elevator to smell. Not yet. Part 3. The Meeting. The 50th floor was all glass and steel, and men in collars stiff enough to stop a bullet. Every one of them second birth. Every one of them looking at Daniel like the tent revival had wandered into the country club. They said his resume was strong. They said he'd done things, real things, and they respected that. And then a silver-haired one at the end of the table folded his hands and got to the matter. "You have to understand, Mr. Daniel," he said. "Every man in this room has been to the other side, same as you. The difference is, we came back with data." A little pause, the kind you could shave with. "You came back with a hymnal." See, these were men of science, or so they told themselves. The way they figured it, they'd died and come back, and no angel had signed for the delivery. Question settled, answered by experiment. And here was Daniel, still saying grace, still carrying the faith he'd been buried in. And you have to understand what that looked like from a 50th floor window. Out west, the second birth folks had gone and gotten colorful. Pop-up Pentecostal tents where the preacher had died twice and wasn't shy about it. There was even a moving picture. One of those little tramp fellows made it, called Death of a Gunman, on account of that's what kept happening out west, over and over, for whatever reason. Everybody saw it. Nobody liked it, but everybody saw it. So when New York money looked at Daniel, they didn't see a lawman. They saw the tents. They saw the moving picture. They saw an outsider religion knocking on the door with a resume in its hand. But here's the part that'll surprise you. They made the offer anyway. Good wage, too. Just the one condition, and the silver-haired man laid it out gentle, like he was doing Daniel a kindness. The hymnal stays home. The grace stays unsaid. In this building, a man believes in the data, or he believes quietly enough that the data can't hear him. And Daniel, who had not chosen his death, or his birth, or his gift, or the automobile. Daniel stood up and put on his hat and made the second choice of his day. "No, sir, I don't believe I will." 2 choices in one day, after 35 years of none. He was running up quite a bill. They thanked him for coming. They wished him well, and down he rode, 50 floors, with everything he'd chosen in 2 whole lives riding along with him. His God in his chest, and a stranger's cigar in his pocket over top of it. Now I'll tell you the one question nobody on that 50th floor ever thought to ask, for all their data. In a city where every inch of ground has an owner, and every owner has a landlord, nobody in that building ever asked who held the deed on floors 1 through 57. You keep that question in your pocket, friend. It rides along nice. Part 4. The Man in the Red Uniform. The operator was back at his post for the ride down, and the man looked wrong, pale as fresh plaster. White gloves not steady on the lever, chewing those cloves like they owed him money. Eyes going everywhere except at Daniel, and then worse, only at Daniel. Daniel, freshly turned down, and turning down, and in a mood to needle somebody, offered him a joke on the way past. "Lose your cigar, friend? Hell of a thing to misplace." Now, take a moment and hear that sentence from the other side of the elevator. That operator knew exactly what was wrapped in that white paper, and knew exactly where it had been resting, and had spent his smoke break discovering it gone. And here comes a stranger out of the West, calm as Sunday, who looks him dead in the eye and says, "Lose your cigar, friend." That man didn't hear a joke. He heard a confession. He thought he was standing lever to shoulder with a fellow who steals from demons for sport, and does comedy about it after. He didn't say one word the whole way down. 50 floors of silence. Daniel figured that was New York for you. Not his worry, he told himself. It was entirely his worry. It was in his breast pocket. Part 5. The Flophouse. Daniel took a bed at a flophouse down near the docks because it was what he could afford, and because, he'd never have said this out loud, it was the closest thing in that whole vertical city to a saloon. Low ceiling, bad light, a bar in the front room where nobody asked your business. Felt near normal. He got himself a drink, and after the day he'd had, he figured he'd earned that cigar too. He took it from his breast pocket and worked the white paper loose. Struck a match with the other hand, already lifting the thing toward his mouth. And the paper came open, and what was under it was not tobacco leaf. It was gray, and it was jointed, and it had a nail on it, black as a beetle's back. And Daniel had exactly one heartbeat to understand what he'd been carrying against his chest all day. That's when the smell of death walked into the bar. Not a whiff, not a warning 3 counties out, polite with time to spare. This was rain on cold iron and turned earth and flowers gone wrong in the water, loud as a fire bell. And for the first time in 35 years, the grave smell had his own name on it. Understand what that meant to a man like Daniel. His gift was avoidance, a whole second life built on stepping off the train early. And here was the invitation, hand-delivered, with no platform left to step off onto. The door opened. 4 men came in, city suits, hats down low. And between the 4 of them, they had one eye. A single red eye, sitting in the socket of the first man through the door. And as Daniel watched, that man plucked it out casual as checking a pocket watch and handed it back to the second, who seated it in his own empty socket and took up the looking. The one holding the eye said, "We know you've got our boss's finger." And here's the thing you should know, that Daniel worked out in the space of that sentence, that eye had been on him all day. A demon can always see what's his, even after it's been cut off of him. And hear that carefully, because it's the finger the boss sees, not the eye. Every floor of that elevator, every minute of that meeting, every step to the docks, watched. They hadn't come when he took it. They came when he struck the match. Fire's the one thing you can do to a relic that can't be undone, and the boss's patience died with that match. Daniel didn't know any of that yet. He just knew the room smelled like his own grave, and 4 men were between him and the door. Part 6. The Gunfight. Now here's where I have to disappoint you because you're expecting me to describe the gunfight, and I can't. I wasn't fast enough. Nobody was fast enough. The second birth makes a man quicker than he's got any right to be. But so does working for a demon, and what happened in that barroom happened in the space between 2 beats of a slow heart. I can tell you what the drink did. Daniel's hand left his glass on the bar, and the glass was still rocking when it started, and the glass was still rocking when it ended. I can tell you it cost him. The first shot out of those city suits took the hat off his head, and the second took a little skin with it, a hot line above the ear, and Daniel understood in that instant that his legend was 30 years out of practice, and these men were not. And I can tell you the one thing he clocked mid-draw that saved his life, because it's the kind of thing only a lawman notices while dying is going on all around him. 4 gunmen. 1 eye. They had to pass it. And a man is stone blind in the little moment the eye leaves his hand, and the eye itself, in that little moment, is just a small red thing traveling through the air. Daniel had shot the buttons off a vest at 40 paces. The eye was closer than that. Part 7. The New Smell. 4 men on the floor, the red eye somewhere among them, shot through and gone dark, no more troublesome now than a marble. A thin line of blood above Daniel's ear, and his good hat ruined on the boards. And the grave smell lifted off him like a fever breaking. Rain and iron and turned earth. Gone. His nose went quiet. The invitation declined again. Same as Abilene. He was halfway to believing it was over when he caught the other smell. Underneath. It had been there all day, he realized. Faint as a thing can be and still be, hiding under the horse and the coal smoke and the city. And only now, in the after quiet, could he pick it out. Sulfur. Not coming from the bodies. He checked. Not from the dead red eye. Coming from his breast pocket. He set the finger on the bar, white paper and all, gentle as you'd set down a sleeping snake, and he walked for the door. And when his hand touched the handle, he felt the little weight against his chest again. He didn't look down. He'd been a lawman long enough to know evidence when it followed him. And a few things came clear to Daniel then, standing in that doorway. Why a man who worked in that brass box chewed cloves all day long. Why that man's smoke break came regular as a toll. And why his own nose, which had never failed him, had said nothing in that elevator. It hadn't failed. It had simply never been taught this. His gift knew every kind of death there was. He'd learned death on a train out of Abilene 30 years back, and death had smelled the same every day since. Death is an old smell. Damnation is a new one. Last anybody saw of Daniel, he was walking out of that flophouse with one hand flat over his breast pocket and his nose lifted to the night wind. A man trying to learn a smell no living soul had ever survived long enough to name. And somewhere above that city, in a building full of men who don't believe in anything they can't measure, and who pay their tithe monthly all the same, they just call it rent. Something that can always see what's his watched him go. Where he walked to, I couldn't tell you. That's not the story I was telling. Everything in this story happened to Daniel. The dying, the returning, the gift, the automobile, even his religion, a faith he never had assigned to him by strangers in a room he'd traveled 1,000 miles to sit in. In 2 whole lives, that man got to choose exactly once. And that one's still collecting. And the ride's a little rough, and something small comes rolling across that floor, wrapped up neat in white paper. You leave it lay.